Hi folks, Chef Ian here, and today we're in the Cooks Collective and we're doing Kitchen 101 and we're talking herbs. Now, some of you may have seen my little story about growing fresh herbs. I'm a big believer in fresh herbs. However, I've got is an abundance of basil. So I can either do one or two things. I can let my basil go and it'll eventually seed, flower, and it'll actually be wasted. What I've done is with my basil, I've given it a big haircut, and I'm going to be putting it through the Ninja. I'm going to blend this down, and I'm then going to pour it into my silicone moulds here and freeze it. Once it's frozen, I'll take it out of the moulds, put it into some Ziploc bags, and it's going to be in my freezer. Anytime that I need fresh basil in the future, I can just pop one of these in to a sauce or to a dressing, and I've got that beautiful fresh basil flavour. Okay, so I've got my fresh basil, and I've just given it a wash, and all I'm doing is just taking it off the stems. I don't want the stems in it, I just want the leaves. It's just a matter of just plucking them out and putting them into the Ninja. What I love about this Ninja is that it's got plenty of oomph to puree all this down without any problems. So we've got our first load of basil in there. What I'm adding to it is some olive oil. So we need some liquid in there. And juice of a lemon. What I'd like to introduce to you is a new gadget that I've got in the pantry. It's called a flusser. When I first saw it, I thought, oh yeah, just another gadget that's out there in the marketplace. I'll show you how to use it, but it's now replaced this, and I'm sure everyone's seen these, where you actually squeeze them down. I find them a bit cumbersome and really hard work actually to press it down to get the juice out. Things spurt out at the sides. And then old school is this, the old-fashioned juicer. Put it on, squeeze it. Look, they're going to the recycle bin. They've got no place in my kitchen anymore. And replaced. How this works is that you get your lemon, pop it in there, and you just bring it together. And as you can see, all the juice comes out. Easy as. So you can see that it's your lemon. We've got all the juice out of that. Do the second one. These are available now for purchase in the pantry at the Underground Chef. I think it's a fantastic addition that you can add, and as I said, get rid of the old-fashioned squeezing. So that's it. Simple. Give that a wash. Away you go. Okay. So we've got our olive oil in there. Knock this down and turn the Ninja on. And I'm just going to do it on low, just for a start. I'm just going to use a spoon. Just want to push the rest of that down. And I can also now add some more basil. So I'm just going to quickly throw that basil in. This might take a couple of minutes to do. You might need to do this 2 or 3 times, but you want to try to get as much as possible in this. But it's a great way to use basil up. The other thing that I've found too, talking to a lot of home cooks, is that they buy their fresh herbs from the supermarket be that basil or coriander. It goes into your fridge and you've used it for, you know, 1 or 2 dishes, and then the rest of the herbs sit there until they eventually go mouldy and slimy and you throw them away. Now that's a waste. I particularly just find it, you know, crazy that supermarkets and the shops sell you these herbs for anything up to $4 to $5, where you can grow your own one plant, and if you look after it and maintain it, it will produce and produce. This is just, all this produce has come from one basil bush that I have in my garden. So let's just throw that back on again. Hit the power again. I'm going to repeat this process about 3 or 4 times. So rather than going through the same thing over and over again, I'm just going to continue to do that, and I'll come back towards the end and I'll show you the next process. See you soon. Okay, so the Ninja's done its job, and why it works so well is you can see this, and I'll pull this out. These blades on this are super sharp, and as you can see, they're quite tall. Like the old days, the blenders just had a little blade at the bottom, which was fine for everything, but this basically ensures that everything all the way up to the top gets chopped. So it's very efficient and does its job perfectly. So what we have now is this beautiful puree. So there's not much more I need to do with this than pour it into my moulds. And these are going to be your little Basil flavour bombs. So I'll pop this into the freezer, and as I said, when they're frozen solid, I'll pop them out. I'll put them into a Ziploc bag, and anytime that I need basil for any dish, there it is. I won't need to go to the garden, or I won't need to go to the shops to buy fresh basil. I'll have this readily available. So what you've got in this, each, I guess, little basil bomb here, as I call it, will equate to probably about a cup or so of fresh basil. I'll pour the rest of those later, but just shows you what you can do with a product that during the seasons you can make it as a plus for you. So, you know, later in the year, especially if you're in the cooler climates, when your basil's not going to be growing so well, you can go to something like this rather than, as I said, buying products from the supermarket or buying those, you know, basil purees that you see. I guess this is a throwback to me about seasons. Big believer in when things are in season, use them and preserve them as best possible. I remember my granny, learned a lot from her during the summer months when all the stone fruit was in season. She used to preserve it all, you know, in the Fowler, those who can remember, for cola bottling kits that you could put all your fruit in, preserve it. I think it's time to really revisit those again and learn from those days, because I guess Granny learned how to stretch a dollar. I mean, times are tough as well at the moment for us. And whilst we have all these beautiful fruits in the season, I think you should be looking at, as I said, potentially going back to it. So I might do a workshop on that and just show you how simple it is. But this is a very simple process of doing this to ensure that you're not turning something that you've got excess of. In fact, you're doing the plants a favour, because giving them a shortcut, a haircut now, means it'll regrow out. So again, it's just going to keep on producing and producing and producing. So it's not just basil. You've got an abundance of parsley. Coriander is a classic one. Coriander is one to me, is that it goes to seed very quickly. So if you've got coriander growing, keep on harvesting it and don't allow it to go to seed. And then, as I said, you've got your little coriander bomb there, and it's fantastic again to add to your curries or any dishes that you need coriander in. So that's it, folks. How simple it is in the Ninja blender, utilising, as I said, fresh herbs, addition of some olive oil, some lemon, and then, yeah, introducing our new latest gadget. So you can check that out in the pantry as well. So, till next time, Kitchen 101, we'll see you soon. All the best. Cheers.